Welcome to Become an Idol. I'm Dr. Robin Sargent, owner of Idol Courses. This is the place where newbies come to learn and veterans share their knowledge. I have here with me today Gretchen Johanson, and Gretchen is one of my very early Idle Courses Academy members, and her story is just a longer journey and it's just unfolded in so many ways. And I really want you to hear Gretchen's story and where she's come from and where she is now. And I really, really think you're going to enjoy meeting her. So, Gretchen, will you please give a better introduction than what I just did?
Sure. So I am one of the founding members of the Idle Courses Academy. I found Dr. Robin Sargent on social media and had friended her through LinkedIn and Facebook and all the avenues she was already linked on, and was following her for some time before she started Idle Courses. And when she introduced that, I had already been working towards becoming an instructional designer and leaving teaching. And I found her to be my ticket out, and I was right. So I joined Idle Courses Academy on their flagship cohort, and I haven't looked back since.
Oh my gosh. And now, I mean, we'll get into all the things that you've already done to like be a part of giving back to our students. But okay, I want to get all the way into the very early things. So you were a teacher. So what kind of teacher were you and what grade before you ever joined the academy?
Yeah, sure. So I taught middle school for almost 9 years, specifically sixth grade. I started out as a science teacher and also taught a section of ancient civilizations, and then transferred from my first school and into the one that I really finished my career out in, and was strictly a social studies teacher at that point, and was teaching ancient civilizations, something I never thought I would be teaching because I really wanted to teach science, but it just, that's the way the cards fell, and I fell in love with it and loved teaching. And up until probably about 3 years before I really left, because it was stressful. And I think a lot of teachers have the same story as I do. And the stress was affecting my health. I didn't feel supported in the school system anymore in regards to discipline with the students and being able to uh, create classes the way I wanted to, and to run my class the way I wanted to. And just the interactions with the parents sometimes were overwhelming. And when it really started to affect my health, I decided that I needed to find a way out. And so that's what I started doing. So my journey really was, I got lucky, really, to leave teaching and go straight into a corporate job. My friend who worked for a German company, that we worked for this German company, and she got a promotion, and so she offered me my job and said, "Hey, why don't you come interview? I know you're trying to leave teaching." So I went and interviewed for a travel coordinator position, and luckily got the job. And so that was my foot into the corporate world. And I left teaching and went there and did some coordinating of travel, where I took our European employees and brought them to the US and vice versa. And then after that, I started noticing that there was a need for training within that office, especially when it came to policy compliance for our travel policies. And so I created training there and tried to carve a new path into that direction, and realized I really liked doing that. And so I was looking for something um, that would mimic that. Like, I could continue using my teaching skills and not be in the classroom at the same time. So um, I was looking for jobs like corporate trainer and, maybe HR, where I would be doing onboarding training and stuff like that. And then I ran across the job description for instructional designer. And I was like, that's it. That's exactly what I want to do, because I really enjoyed looking at what needs to be done and creating training for it. And I liked that development part where I'm playing with the tools, and creating the e-learning and videos and all of that part of instruction. And so I really started to do my own research and figure out how in the heck to get into that industry. I was reading the job descriptions and trying to find out more about the information that was listed in those job descriptions on my own. And I took baby steps from that corporate role. I was there for almost 3 years and was building my experience on the back end. And this is all before Idle Courses was launched. And right around the same time that I started conversing with Robin on all the social media platforms. And so I'm just paying attention to everything that was being posted about instructional design, and, just contacting people out of the blue and asking them if I could look at their portfolios to see how their online portfolio was set up. Cause I knew that was an important part of instructional design, and getting your foot in the door, because they want to see your work and not just know that you can do it, but they want to see the proof. So I started to create my own using Weebly. And anyway, as I was getting better at that, I started seeing more opportunities, and I left that German company and started working for an institution of higher education as a program manager, where I ran the professional development side of the college. Really, is for any of the area businesses that came to us needing training for their team. And that training could have been anywhere from Microsoft Office Suite training to SHRM, which is, getting your certification in HR and project management, even to industrial tools and machinery. I was in charge of all of that. And I was also creating courses for them as well. And I created a real estate course with that. And as I was doing that job, I learned that I really, really wanted to focus on the instructional design part. And right about that same time that I realized that, that's when Robin launched Idle Courses. And I signed up immediately. And I said, that's my ticket, because I didn't want to have to but I didn't want to have to sign up for another college class and be strapped down to that kind of curriculum for a year or 2 years until I got my degree. And her 8-week cohort was the answer, and I could do it on my own time. And so that's how I found Idle. And that's kind of where I was in my career right before I took Idle Courses. I found a real busy season for myself during that time at the college. And I couldn't start the courses right away. So I signed up in June. And then finally, after that busy season, which was when I was developing that real estate course, in September, I was finally able to look at the content that Robin had in Idle Courses. And I started going through it in my own way, the way I wanted to concentrate on. My goal was to get the instructional design job right away. And so I thought, what better way to do that than to focus on my portfolio, change my LinkedIn to help my branding, and so that I could get seen and come up in research and search results, and to work on my resume. And I started doing all that in September, and then by the end of October, I had gone to our local Association for Talent Development meeting, ATD, and met someone there who had a job opening. And I said, I'd like to work for you. And this happened to be at Charter Communications. And so the next day I sent my resume in, and I had an interview lined up. And within a couple of weeks in a stringent interview process, I was offered the job. So I went from looking at the content first into a job within the month. So I didn't even really get to finish the Idle Courses Academy content before I was offered the job. I started that job in December. So within just like a short 3 months, I I had my first ID job at Charter Communications. So,
December 2019.
yep, absolutely. December 2019. So it's hard to believe how far I've come. I mean, it really is exciting because, I just think about I was a teacher and, I think a total from leaving teaching to my first ID job, it took me about 3 years, but I was doing a lot of that on my own. And golly, I wish I had Idol Academy when I first started looking, or even knew what an instructional designer was at that time. So, I just think about all the things I was doing on my own, and I just kind of felt like I was spinning my wheels until I got to the academy. So,
Oh my gosh. And then you landed your job at Charter and you
yep.
started working there. And then what was it? What you were only working there for what, like 6 months before I said, we need mentors, come help me.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just a total 6 months. But I was doing a lot of mentoring and evangelical work for Idle Courses Academy. Robin didn't know or doesn't know. Well, she knows now because I've told her. But on the back end, every time we would have an article posted or whatever, I was just singing Idle's praises. I had people reaching out to me on LinkedIn constantly, and so I was already kind of mentoring people on the things that worked for me that I had learned through the Idol Academy. And so 6 months after landing my job, I got the official ask to be a mentor. So that was fun. I jumped at the opportunity because I just want to pay it forward.
Oh my gosh. Now you've been a mentor. You have worked on some projects for me. You have written blog articles. And so you've definitely probably made back the your investment. Is that right?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, that investment paid for itself within the first paycheck as a true instructional designer. So, I mean, I just I never fathomed that. I mean, we'll put it out there. In South Carolina, when I left teaching, I was making like $40,000. And that was as a single mom, so as a single mom and a teacher, that was a struggle. Um, it really was. And to think that I could double my income, well, almost double. I didn't quite double it, but it sure was a huge jump, and to go into an instructional design, that was like a dream. I never in a million years thought that I could do that quickly, make such a huge leap, but I did. And I haven't looked back. So I definitely made the money back in my investment right away. Right away.
And I mean, you've been with us, like you're a founding member, so you've been with the Academy through all of its transformations, which it is constantly
Yeah.
evolving. And that's, of course, because of people like you, Gretchen, who are like, and we should add this, and what if we did this, and how about
Yeah.
we support students this way? And so you've been through this entire transition, and you also, not only that, but you got an award, or you were recognized, or your first performance review was something outstanding this last year in 2020, your
Yeah,
first job.
absolutely. So there's when you do your mid-year and your end of the year reviews, you really there's a scale of like a 1 through 5, and if you get a 3, you're doing everything. You're just like meeting the marks. You're meeting all the standards. Everything's great. Like that's a fantastic score. Nobody, to my knowledge, had ever received a 5 in the history of the company, and only a handful of people received the 4. And so I got a 4 within that first year. And I mean that one of the things my boss told me was that she's never had an end of the year review that was as positive as mine, and that they didn't really find anywhere any deficiencies for me to work on. So we really had to come up with something, because you still need stretch goals and stuff, and no matter what you're doing and what your title is, you always have to have those stretch goals. So we were struggling to find those stretch goals for me at my position, because I was already performing above my actual title. So yeah, it was pretty awesome to hear that and to get that feedback and to know how much they thought of me there as far as my abilities and stuff go. So yeah, I
They
really
even put you in for a promotion.
they did put me in for a promotion. Absolutely. So unfortunately I didn't get the promotion because there was a lot of people that were submitted for the promotion, but just to be submitted for a promotion within my first year uh, at a company, that was amazing. So just to know that that they thought that highly of me and that I should be at a higher position than what I was, that really was something. So it was a big accomplishment.
It's your first instructional, like corporate instructional design job, and you were best hire, which is just
Yeah.
so incredible. So, how many times do you think that you have done and redone your portfolio?
Oh, that's an excellent question because I look at what I have in Weebly right now and I just cringe what I had versus what I have now. So yeah, when I started Idle, I was reluctant to redo my portfolio that I had worked so hard on because I had some tunnel vision. I was like, but this stuff's great. This stuff's so good, and I want to leave it here. And mind you, I didn't really have anything on it that had a lot of e-learning or videos on it because I was talking about my teaching experience and those things. And I really had to sit back and look at, what I needed from that first portfolio, what I needed to change um, and so I looked at it, not through my eyes. I had to try to put on a different hat and come to terms with the fact that what I had on there probably wasn't cutting the mustard. And so I did revamp it at least once under the old name, which it was not idea-ish anyway. And so the domain name and everything needed to change. And I did spend, after I got that up to par enough to get this job at Charter, I spent the next year during the pandemic, right, in our off time, I rebranded and I redid my portfolio. And I don't know, from that, the new brand name, thequeenid.com is what I came up with. There's a long story with how I got that name, but there's a reason for it, not just being boastful, but there
You
is
earned that title.
there is a reason for it. And but I've done probably 4 or 5 iterations of that portfolio site within this last year, just trying to work hard at it and get it to where it needs to be so that I could grow as a freelancer. That was my goal, was to eventually do some side work as a freelancer. I don't know if I want to completely be a freelancer on my own. That scares me a little bit, but just to be able to grab some work on the side and do that in my off time is something that I was looking for. So I really wanted my portfolio to look like that, and to suggest that I do project-based work and other things like that, and that I'm available for it. So it did take me 3 or 4 iterations to get where I am right now. And I'm pretty pleased with it, but I always I'll look at it every so often. I'm like, oh, that can be improved, or this can be improved, or I should add some more e-learns here and some more videos there and other things. So it's a constant work in progress. And I think for anybody, you just have to be comfortable with knowing that you're going to get to a state where you think it's fine, and then look at it later and say, no, I still need to work on it. So it's a constant work in progress, especially when your skills start to change, the better you get at things. As I'll look at some of my older e-learns and older videos, and I'm just like, man, I can't believe somebody hired me with that. So
Well, and that's the point too, though, Gretchen, is that you can land your first job with your first, you know,
yep.
struggle portfolio,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And then did you still use the academy as you iterated and improved your portfolio?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm still in the courses, and to be honest, with each cohort, it always seems to be something new added, and so I'm never completely done with the coursework, which is fun because there's always something else to learn. And I love the fact that I can continue to access the courses, even though we're going into what, number 7, or is it number
Yeah.
8? Yeah,
Number
number
7.
7. And I continually use the Idle Courses Academy as a resource, even when I'm doing my work for the companies that I work for. So it's been pretty amazing to have that as a resource, and to know that that it's always going to be there. And one of the other things too is the academy. I've made some pretty good friends, and I have one person who I'm really close with. Her name's Christy Oliva, and she and I both keep pushing each other, and she was one that I bounce ideas off of for my portfolio, and vice versa. So it's been really amazing just to have that support of the group, and the Idle Courses Academy family, and then to find some accountability partners and friends within the academy as well. So it's all been very helpful.
You even got to meet some of your friends in person.
I know, that was so fun. I really would like to do that again. Yeah. We took a trip and got to meet a few people in person. So that was fun, being able to actually put a real face with the name, and put a voice with the comments and stuff that we see on Facebook and everything. Because what, it's been a little over a year now that we've really been talking with each other. And so the fact that we took a little trip together for the weekend, and got to meet a few people, that was fun. So I think it should be an official thing, though. We
And what's
should.
really cool about talking to you now, Gretchen, is because, like, the Academy opened July, June of 2019. And here we are, May of 2021. And not only did you land your first instructional design job at Charter Communications,
Yep.
you have now already advanced in your career. And I want to hear about that.
Absolutely. So one of the things you'll learn when you follow the directions to update your LinkedIn profile from the courses, Idle Courses Academy, is that recruiters are going to start coming out of the woodworks for you. And so when I did that, um, you know, uh, I was getting calls, or not calls, but emails and messages several times a day from different recruiters, for opportunities. And I recently had an opportunity to interview for a contract position with Mackin Consultancy, and that contract position is to do work for Google. So I interviewed for that position with Mackin, and then with the manager that's going to be running my team at Google. And I had an offer that same day in that interview, after that interview, for that position. So I am going to be starting um, my ID work and my ID career as a contractor at Google. Well, for Google, not really at Google, because I'm remote, and that's also an awesome thing. So I'm really looking forward to it. So those of you that are scared of contract work, don't be, because that's a big part of our industry, is contract work. And just be be mindful of the terms of the contract, and if it's suitable for you, because there's all different variations of contract work. And so you can always find the one that's going to be right for you, if you're looking. But really, that's the important thing, is if you're changing your LinkedIn profile, you want to follow those steps in the Idle Courses Academy, because that brought everybody to you. So I felt like it was like the Pied Piper, you know. You do these things for your LinkedIn profile, and they'll follow you. So that's what happened. Is I've gotten so many recruiter contacts now, and opportunities thrown my way, that it's kind of weird, because they're coming to me and I can pick and choose. Whereas before, I felt desperate for a job. And so when when you don't have that, you're taking, you're saying yes to any and everything that might come your way. And now I'm like, I can be a little more uh choosy, I guess you could say, as far as like what I want to um entertain and what I don't want to entertain. So it's kind of weird in a way. But it's awesome. I will
Do
say
you
that.
have any idea what percentage increase you got from your your last job to your new one?
Yeah, it's about a 30% increase in salary. So it's awesome. It really is. It's pretty exciting because and here's why. For teachers, we don't really go into it thinking we're going to make a lot of money. I think everybody knows that. I think everybody knows um what the salary expectation is as a teacher, and that if you stay in that industry, you're still going to hit a ceiling, right? So you can't, even if you have a doctorate and have x amount of years within into that industry and education, you still hit a ceiling and can't make more than a certain amount, right? And I don't feel like that that's there as an instructional designer. And so it's such a weird feeling. And the weirdest feeling was those initial conversations about salary when I was leaving teaching and coming into instructional design. I was afraid to ask for what a normal instructional design salary was. And I don't think that it's not a comfortable conversation for us as teachers, because we're okay like accepting less than, because it's still more than what we would be making as a teacher. But I do want to say, for all of those teachers out there that are trying to make that conversion, that it's not, don't be afraid to ask for that, because the market is there, and most of the employers aren't going to bat an eyelash if you ask for, anywhere from 65 to 75 for a entry level instructional design position. It really depends on where you are in the where your region is in the United States. If you're in the United States, and globally, like, what are they offering those? So you really need to do your research to kind of be within the ballpark. But please don't be afraid to ask for that, because we don't want to water down the industry and say, oh, I'll take 20,000 less than what the industry average is, because then that's going to start affecting all of us. But yeah, that's such a weird feeling at first. And now that I've had the experience, and within the academy, we talk about salary, and we talk about how to ask for what we're worth and to get what we're worth out of it, and negotiate during interviews and stuff like that. Once the offer's made, it has really been a confidence booster. And being able to say, I'm expecting this because I know my skills are at this level, is just, it's something I never even thought would happen. And so to be making what I'm making now is amazing. So,
So talk about things that you're surprised with, or just like blissed out about. What are some of the things that surprised you when you first got your instructional design job? What are the things that you just didn't know would be part of your everyday routine, that you're just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing? Or what are some of those things that you just, the difference between where you were in your career to, this new career that you have?
so some of the things that really surprised me, they weren't really instructional design related, because it really was that move from education to corporate that was kind of a jar. And that was because, like, mostly because of the vernacular of the corporate world, completely different than the vernacular in the education world. So even though you're like meaning the same things, when you're saying them, the jargon's just different. And the pace is definitely different. The pace is much quicker in the corporate world and very deadline driven. So all of those things, that was a huge learning curve. When I stepped into that world as an instructional designer. So those were probably the biggest surprises to me. And I did feel like I was, going at warp speed and had this steep learning curve when I got there. But once I got settled into the position and learned the processes at Charter as much as I could, then it all started to be comfortable. One of the things that I get asked a lot about is, I don't know this or that about industry A, or this or that about industry B. And that was one of the things too, that as an instructional designer, you don't have to be an expert in any type of industry. You're an expert at designing instruction. So don't feel like it's, that you're not going to learn what that industry is, or that you're going to be counted out as an instructional designer because you don't know that industry. That's, you're not there to know that industry. You're there to build instruction for that industry. So it does help to know it, but you learn it as you go along because you have subject matter experts that'll help you understand the content. So yeah, that was a big thing for me too at Charter, was learning their language and that industry. So those were probably the most surprising things for me, was that the pace and the vernacular, and then learning the industry itself. Those were the big things.
Was this your first remote job too? Or?
So actually Charter was supposed to be in the office, and
Oh,
I was perfectly fine with that, but the pandemic hit, and so we did go totally remote. And my previous job at that German company, it was flexible, so I could work from home or be in the office at my leisure. So but Charter, we were supposed to be in the office, and they're moving back towards coming back into the office now. And try to get some sort of normalcy back in that office environment. But yeah, so this past year has been the first time that I've been fully remote, and I kind of got used to it. So it's been amazing. When I was looking for another job, or these recruiters were coming to me, I was like, "Is it remote? Because I'm not really going to listen to you if it's not." So. So luckily I found one that was 100% remote.
yeah, with a brand name company.
Oh, heck yeah.
How did you describe it whenever you told your bosses you were leaving?
Oh yeah, because I couldn't quite say where it was yet or what it was for, but I said it was a major search engine and also a verb. So so it was fun.
So you're also a mentor in the Idle Courses Academy, and obviously your journey still continues to inspire and encourage others about the path, and just knowing that your portfolio wasn't perfect, but you still landed your job and you still keep growing and investing in yourself and your own development. And so put on your mentor hat, Gretchen, and just give the people that are listening, like, what's some of that good Gretchen advice you give to those that are trying to make the transition to corporate instructional design?
Yeah. So I get that question a lot. Like, how do I go from being a teacher to an instructional designer? And I almost always tell them these three things, and that's because it worked for me, and I mentioned it earlier. So with the Idle Academy, when you're focusing on making that change, you can pick and choose where you want to spend your time in that content, or you can choose to go linear. It's set up either way. But I chose to focus on those three things: is my resume, right? So as a teacher, I used, education lingo. So everything was like a lesson plan, or my students, or curriculum, anything like that. I was using language that was synonymous with the education world. I learned that my resume was not getting views because of that for an instructional design position. So you really need to concentrate on changing the verbiage of your resume without changing the meaning, right? So you want to concentrate on using the corporate vernacular for things like that. So lesson plans turned into designed instruction or instructional design, things like that. They mean the same thing, but it's just a totally different language. So focus on that when you're changing your resume or updating your resume to get that corporate instructional design position. The other thing was LinkedIn. That was huge, because you need to change your profile so people know what industry you're looking to be in, right? Or that you're already working in, wherever you are in your career as an instructional designer. You've got to set it up that way. And Idle Courses Academy gave you the blueprint, or gives you that blueprint. So follow those rules, and you can't go amiss, because that's how the recruiters found me. I wasn't getting any recruiters, knocking on my door before that. So it was a game changer. for me. And then the last thing is to build some assets. So if you don't have time to make your portfolio right now, to start building those assets so that you can share them when the time comes for an employer to see your work, right? You don't necessarily have to have that portfolio website done and ready to go before you start interviewing. You can have some assets created and start that interview or start that job search process, because that takes some time. And that way you'll have your assets ready to go, and then you're working on your portfolio, and then you can have that when it's ready, right? So I would focus on your resume and changing the verbiage, focus on updating your LinkedIn profile the way it needs to be so that you can get those recruiters coming after you on LinkedIn, and then start creating assets as soon as possible so that you can start building your portfolio. And so those are the three things that I would focus on. That's what worked for me.
And so much, Gretchen, I'm sure you've noticed it just like I have and many others. So much of this transition is about mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about changing your perspective
Yes.
on what it means, to be an instructional designer, and for you specifically to be one.
Yep.
And there's a lot of things that are tossed around, like imposter syndrome and perfectionism
Yes.
and confident lack of confidence. And so those are tactical things that I like 100% support you on. What are some of those things that you tell our students when they are saying things like, I just don't feel confident, I'm not sure I'm good enough? What's kind of your advice in that?
Yeah. Well, that imposter syndrome thing, it's real. It really is real. Because I still feel it, even now after being in the industry. And I've talked to other people who've been in the industry for much longer than I have degrees much higher than I have, and they still feel it too. So you're not alone. That's the first thing I say, is you're not alone. The second thing I say is that you are not an imposter, because if you're coming from education, right? And I really have a heart for educators. If you're coming from education, you already have the tools. You've already had the training in your education, your college career, to be an instructional designer. That was the focus of your education, was how do you build successful lessons or successful training to teach these concepts to learners. And you've already done that. So the groundwork has been laid. You have experience in doing that already. So you're coming to the table with a lot of pluses already. So you should not feel that way just because the industry is different than a corporate environment, right? You've already been making these lessons or the training or whatever it is you want to call it, all the curriculum stuff that we work on, and then we deliver it, right? I think we have the hardest audience of all. If you're teaching students, right, you have a captive audience of people who don't really want to be there, right? And they don't see the long game in their education. And so you have to do the song and dance for these students. You have to make things creative and interesting every single day. And so all of that ingenuity that you've developed in your experiences can totally translate into the corporate environment. And don't let anybody tell you any different, because there are some corporations out there that don't see the relationship between the teacher's experience and training and an instructional designer's training and experience, but they really are one and the same as far as that goes, and as far as I'm concerned. I will say that until the cows come home, right?
Yeah.
And I will argue it every time if somebody says that a teacher is not going to make a good instructional designer. We make the best instructional designers, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I'm just so grateful, Gretchen, that you came here and shared your story. And I know that somebody is going to be inspired by what you've told, and just how incredible like your journey's unfolded in just such a short time, really, when you think about it. So
yeah,
thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
It's overdue, really.
Well, I hope to come back again with some extra advice or something else that's fun and exciting. So
I know. Well, this is just your success story. So we
Yep.
can come back and talk about any other one of those idle topics you like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks again, Gretchen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. You can find the show notes for this episode at idlecourses.com. If you like this podcast and you want to become an instructional designer and online learning developer, join me in the Idle Courses Academy, where you'll learn to build all the assets you need to land your first instructional design job, early access to this podcast, tutorials for how to use the e-learning authoring tools, templates for everything course building, and paid instructional design experience opportunities. Go to idlecourses.com/academy and enroll or get on the wait list. Now get out there and build transcendent courses.